The winner ecosystem, without a doubt, is San Francisco. If you want to build something on a global level to be the best in the world and to build the world's next unicorn, San Francisco is 100% your place.
Real people, real stories, and real challenges that break the status quo. I'm your host, Zivile, and welcome to Perception Paradox. Hello everyone and welcome back to Perception Paradox. So I'm thrilled today to have Eli, the CEO of StartupBlink, and yeah, he's at the forefront of mapping and researching the global startup economy. He works with governments, different startup ecosystems, corporate clients, and in general, he's someone who is fostering innovation. And we met with Eli actually in Singapore when I was there, part of an accelerator. It was super random. I just saw on LinkedIn that he's there and was like, hey, what's up? I'm here. Do you want to grab a coffee? And then we just met and I had a coffee. He asked me some really relevant questions about where am I heading with this whole entrepreneurial journey, and is it really my way to build just only one startup? That was really interesting. I think it helped me to answer some my further questions, what I want to do with my life. And right now I'm happy to welcome him to Perception Paradox. So Eli, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, David. Really nice to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
How are you doing? You're tuning in from Cyprus, right?
Yeah, currently I'm in Larnaca in Cyprus. Yeah, spent a lot of this year in Cyprus, and I'm also bouncing between England and hopefully Thailand soon. So yeah, I sort of have a digital nomad lifestyle as well for the last 10 years, and made the best of building a company remotely. It has many challenges, but we have to take advantage of the advantages as well. So yeah.
Okay, so I think it's a great way to start our conversation. You became the Nomad before it was cool or trendy, right? Quite some time ago. How did that happen?
Yeah, that happened in 2010. So there was almost no information about this lifestyle. And I just did a trip a very long time ago, probably in 2003, to South America, and greatly enjoyed it. And just felt like I would love to find a way to extend this, to kind of replicate this period, of course, with limitation, because back then when I was a backpacker, I didn't have to work and so on. But I just thought that it would be really nice to replicate it. And then internet came and broadband and all those elements. So even before the digital nomad movement started, I felt like this is something that can be done. And so yeah, I just went for it when I felt like, I started as a freelancer working in Elance and Odesk, what is now Upwork, and had an online language school. So I just said, hey, it seems like the future now allows us to work remotely. So yeah, it was well before the revolution started. I have to say it was also more fun a little bit
Oh,
because
really? What was different?
nobody got it until, let's say, 2016.
Uh-huh.
If I would tell someone, I think first of all, the beginning is always more fun than later on. So that's the first thing. It's always more exciting and so on. So that was the major element. And on the other way, it was also more cool because when people heard about it, they're like, what the hell are you talking about? Like, how really you're now switching countries, working remotely? So I think that people, because it was not saturated, and it was very unique in a way. So it's nice. I just discovered the trend, let's say about 6 years before it was
The
in
trend.
public.
That's
Some
a good
people
spotting.
discovered it back in 2001 and 2007, or imagine the life that they've had. So that's pretty cool.
Have you ever got tired or bored of such a lifestyle? Because you're still kind of nomading in a way, right? You're now in Cyprus, and soon you're gonna go to Thailand, what you mentioned before our conversation. And you're still, even though you spend more time in one place, you still keep bouncing.
Yeah. No, definitely. It's something that I really enjoy doing. I still see it as an optimal lifestyle, but with age and as time passes, you have to customize it a little bit. But definitely I see the charm of it. And also my work and kind of like pushes me towards ecosystems whenever there is a project. So generally, in some capacity, what happens now compared to before is that I'm actually moving much faster, in a way, surprisingly, because there are much more limitations and commitments, project here, conference there, and so on and so on. But yeah, I would love to slow down a little bit at some point, but definitely this lifestyle of being generally keeping yourself location independent is very, very interesting for me. In a way.
How do you keep your friendships or maintain
Uh,
them?
yeah, I don't have friends. No, I'm kidding. I basically I identify, let's say, a few friends that are willing or interested
Hmm.
in keeping in touch, even though I'm not there. And many of the people would not be in this position. Like they would prefer a friend that they can go for a beer or coffee and so on. So I actually read a few books about the topic. Uh, One of them that I really like is a book called Social Chemistry by Marissa King. And it basically tells you a little bit about this entire element of the Dunbar connections of the 150 people. And I'm much more, let's say, conscious about it. So I actually try to write it down, and I'm trying to write myself a reminder to ping people when I think about them, and to have those 5 friends that I'm doing a call with them every 2 weeks, so that's kind of like the idea. It's definitely more challenging, but I think that friendship, as age passes and people's circumstances of life are changing as well, they're becoming more difficult. Doesn't matter if you have a family and you disconnect because you no longer have time, or if you're still single and many of your friends are sort of like build their nuclear family. So in a way, I feel like even sedentary people that don't move around, as time passes, friendships are becoming a little bit more complex in a way. So I'm not sure it's actually, I was sure it was a disadvantage before, but now I'm thinking that actually no, like wherever I go, I meet new friends. And usually when I come back, because I've been living this life for many, many years, when I come back, I already know someone where I go. And that's the cool thing that you can kind of, so you try to build a little bit of system and to be a little bit more conscious about uh, staying in touch and sort of like knowing if some of your past friends are there. And in addition to that, also feeling comfortable of, even if you're not in touch with someone and you drop where they are, to send them a quick note and tell them, "Hey, I'm here. You have time for coffee." In many cases, they'll tell you, "No, man, I'm totally like, I have a small child," or whatever. But in some cases, it works. People also need a little bit the diversion, let's say, from normal life. And it's nice for
Mm.
them. Somebody is not necessarily in their circle of friends as well. So I can't say it's been very lonely. In addition to that, I always go to co-working spaces. So I try not to be at home working. I'm specifically very, very in need of a co-working space. I think honestly that I would not do this lifestyle if the concept of co-working would not have existed.
Yeah. I do like myself co-working spaces as well. I think it's a great environment to really, I don't know, not motivate yourself to have great conversation with like-minded people. So that really
Um,
works. But startups, the topic we all like to talk, and founders, ecosystems, etc. What came first to your life? Was it a startup Blink or actually your travel blog and the podcast?
yeah. Um, no, StartupBlink actually started even before that.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, and definitely it takes 99% of my time. So, yeah. So basically, I try to build a situation that I have a major occupation or a major project that I work on. And the podcast and the blog that I have, Become Nomad, I have it a little bit on the side as plan B in a way.
Mm.
Eh, of let's say if I ever have to close Startup Link, or who knows, maybe one day I sell it. I actually saw that people get really depressed when they get disconnected from their main thing, even if it's a good outcome and it's an exit. People are kind of like losing their definition and so on. I said to myself, you know what? I prefer to have two definitions in the same time. I think it makes sense for everyone in a way. kind of not only define yourself on one thing, because if this thing doesn't necessarily work, then you're kind of like, oh wow, who am I now? So the blog became Nomad, and now it's actually a lot more. The podcast is a lot more popular than the blog. Like it started as I really, really cared about the blog, but I saw how blogging is dying. I think that's what happened with social media. Basically, it killed blogging altogether. When I started, uh, I talked with my friend. He has also a travel blog. His name is Earl Derek Barn. He has a travel blog called Wandering Earl. And when I talked to him in 2016, he told me, you're way too late on blogging because
Ah,
everyone
okay.
was there. Now you're sort of on your own if you blog because honestly, everyone left it for social media. And then, but surprisingly, the podcast that I did is an experiment because I don't like writing. So what I did is basically recording my episodes and then someone would transcribe them into the blog. And then this someone told me, hey, why don't you launch this as a podcast? You already have a podcast in a way when you read it out loud. And surprisingly, it made a lot more impact than the blog. But both of them are very much on the low burner in a way. I really can't dedicate any time for them. But I think that that's what also makes them fun. You
Mhm.
don't monetize them necessarily, and they're just there as a hobby. And when you disconnect your profession or your career from one of the things that you do, for me, it's pretty fun. Like it keeps it a little bit pure in a way. So
Yeah.
yeah, but most of the time is definitely working on StartupBlink and basically trying to build those data sets and the technology and of course to cater the clients that we have. Um, so definitely an uneven distribution of time. But,
Epic. And which year did you launch your podcast? That was quite before this whole boom that's happening right
uh,
now.
yeah, I launched my podcast in 2016. I now have
Okay.
between 1,500 to 2,000 listeners. And I know that the only reason why it happened, because I don't even do it weekly, um, today you can't launch podcast without doing it weekly. At least
No, no,
it's
it's impossible.
like
I tried
it's
to do it
impossible.
bi-weekly first, and you can see
It
clearly
doesn't work.
different results actually when you do
Yeah,
it weekly.
yeah. So the only reason why I have those 1,500 listeners is because uh, I also have a co-host, Dan, that joined me. He was a listener, and then he saw that I'm not releasing episode. I told me, Eddie, what's going on? Like, there's still more episodes. So that's a good thing of having listeners. One of them sometimes says the show. But the idea is that I think most of those people actually joined 2016, 2017, 2018. And now it's much, much harder. Like the level has gone up so much
Mm.
that, but honestly, I don't care so much. Like, honestly, it would, because I don't monetize it, even if I had 10 listeners an episode, I don't think I would change anything because, I don't necessarily do it for the listeners. For me, it's sort of like, as I told you, it's sort of like another definition that I can tell myself, hey, I'm not only a startup link person,
Yeah.
I'm also doing that. And the second thing is also because this lifestyle, this nomadic lifestyle, says, let's say, can get very confusing, then it sometimes makes sense to organize it. And I once read a book, Seven Habits of Highly Effective People. I think
Oh
it's
yeah.
called. And he basically said, look, if you want to learn how to do something, and I do want to learn how to manage my life in a nomadic life, they basically said, you better teach it. So I said, you know what, let me teach it because I'm facing a lot of difficulties on topics that I'm not really sure about. I can crystallize them by actually trying to teach it. So
That's pretty cool. And then StartupLink, right? How did that happen that you got your interest in the startup ecosystem, and what were your initial starting points? Because
yeah,
now it is like really many different angles that you are covering, but you are one of those key players, I guess, players that identify the ecosystem trends on a global level.
yeah. Yeah, I'm not sure it developed where I wanted it to develop. It's much more serious now than what I think I intended, but sometimes you lose control, when you start something. We're now about 20 people working on this, and it's a lot of projects and a lot of headaches. But generally, it started when I was nomading, and I said to myself, okay, but I need something to do in a way, or not only something to do, but also a hobby. And one of the things that I really liked was startups. I really liked the idea of people starting things that didn't exist before. So the idea was and then I started to try to do mentoring. So I went for a few events and I started to actually mentor in events. And what I noticed was that the mentors that were most sought of after were not necessarily the ones that gave the best advice, but the one that had a track record. So I basically said, okay, let's try to build a platform as a hobby that would allow me to basically, let's say, validate myself as a mentor. So I did that. And yeah, it like basically I can't tell you if it worked, because the minute I started so I went to a lot of mentoring events and then I said to myself, I want to become a super mentor. But the minute I started working on StartupBlink really seriously, I never mentored again. I never went to events again because there was
No
never
way.
time. So that was a little bit annoying. But yeah, that's the story of the reason. And the idea was not to have it as a really serious project. The idea was to have it as sort of like a side thing that is just doing something cool. But then again, you can't really maintain a project with this mindset. There was also a mortal sin in StartupLink that, there was no idea about what is the pain that we're solving. So the idea was, hey, let's put a map of startups and it's going to be super cool, and that's it. That's what I wanted. Just some kind of project that people go and say, StartupLink, another cool resource out there. But there was never a clear idea about how to make money on it. And then only, I guess, maybe the real monetization really started only in 2018, which was a few years after StartupLink started. And then it became a little bit serious. And then you also start to provide services and stuff like that, either to governments or to corporates or to multilaterals. We have several projects with the UN and the World Bank and several governments, about 15 governments around the world. So yeah, so that's basically how it evolved a little bit.
Did I get it right? So, for example, you wanted to be a mentor, and you thought that startups are fun. Then you just kept traveling and thought, oh, there is a great event happening in Italy. I'm okay. Maybe anyway. You go to Italy and then just come with a StartupLink, map it out, and then there's a fun event happening in Japan. Maybe I'm gonna go to Japan, find the event, and then gonna map it out. Is that the way it started happening?
Yeah, I started going to startup weekends and doing
Yeah.
keynotes and whatever, but I felt a little bit of an imposter syndrome because I said to myself, wait, but what really have I built? Like, I know a lot about the theory and whatever. So I just said, okay, let's stop doing that and basically just build something cool so I can come back with credentials. And I never came back.
How long did it take you to build? So it was like what, 4 years or something until you monetized it, or less?
Yeah, like about 3 years or 4 years. Yeah.
And while building it, were you freelancing on a side, or
Yeah.
did you just?
So I continued with Upwork full speed and just did a lot of business plans for people. One of the
Okay.
reasons, why I wanted to work on or on my own projects, regardless of what it is also the sad realization, after doing quite a few business plans for people, that the vast majority of them never started. So I'm
Oh,
like
really?
thinking, yeah, that's the idea. Sometimes it's good, by the way, because sometimes we actually told two clients, we did business plans for them, and we told two clients, you know what, there is no business model here. Like we did a lot of research and you're a little bit at risk. It's not baked yet, your business model and so on. But in many cases, it's got relatively cool businesses that I think that if people would invest 20 or 20K, 30K, they could have done nicely. And you just see that people, at some capacity, sometimes I felt like they're using the business plan creation as a therapy, to sort of like, I have a big dream or whatever, let me at least do a step of visualizing it, but not acting upon it. Because many of those people were married and had financial obligations and so on. And it seems like it was more of a psychological need that so some people did really cool things with the business plan, but the vast majority didn't. at some point it bothered me that basically I'm spending my time on things that don't get born. I said, okay, the only way to control it is if I build my thing. So that was the idea.
That's pretty cool. How did you identify on the first note that you're good at building business plans? Was it from your consulting background?
I was a certified public accountant
Mm.
in my past, and basically that's a lot of what we did was business plan and auditing and stuff like that. So I knew the methodology. So basically the idea is that as I went into the nomadic lifestyle, I said to myself, okay, how do I make money? Let's try to. So I did the random translation jobs or market research job that I think everyone can do. I also broke the market. I think I charged about $3 an hour. That was pretty cool. But then again, I said to myself, okay, how do I actually make a living here that I can make good living out of it? And I said, okay, you know what? In my past companies, as a consultant, a certified public accountant, we did due diligence, we did business plans, and so on. So I just took this knowledge and used this knowledge on something that can allow me to really increase the hourly or to do projects that are like $2,000 per project. Back in the day, it was a long time ago, about 12 or 13 years ago. It was a lot of money, $2,000 per project. And so that was pretty cool. And yeah, I suggest to people generally when they start something, especially if they freelance to build a business, that they should focus on their core skill, because then you can, make a little bit more money because you're already good and validated in something.
Yeah. What kind of traits of successful entrepreneurs do you notice when working with such a global ecosystem mapping?
Yeah, that's a good one. I think more than anything, focus and being ruthless and not telling yourself too many lies about what's going on. Like thinking really first principles in terms of what's happening. I'm not good at this, by the way. I'm really not good at this. That's okay. I already realized it, so I'm not necessarily good in business because I don't have those traits. But basically, that means that you focus, like, you work like a lion and only focus on one thing that would make the most difference. I'm constantly jumping between things. And that you're ruthless in when something doesn't work, you move to the next thing. One example of someone really cool that I really like in this space is Peter Levels from Nomad, and he's basically he is known for being do something and then do another thing and then do another thing, and basically the idea is he's focused 100% on something, but if it doesn't work, his attention is shifting to the next thing. And I think most of us, or a lot of us, especially myself, we really get attached to a project that can be really a dead end for a long time, and you just never give up on. And that creates a situation that you're not advancing. You could have done something much more impactful if you wouldn't be so tied to the story that you told yourself. But of course, you also don't want to give up too fast. So the idea is not like, hey, I had a bad day after 2 weeks and you give up. Like the idea is to take the dip, as Seth Godin says, and then usually it would happen, this process, after 7 or 8 months, when you analyze something and you say, does it make sense or it doesn't make sense? And I don't have this. Like I can keep doing something for 5 years without never asking this question. But the people that are very successful, especially the bootstrappers, are that they're willing to cut ties and not to emotionally get attached to projects. So those are some, and of course, more than anything, luck also, and connected to what StartupBlink is doing, which is basically, just as a quick side note, StartupBlink is a global startup ecosystem app and a database, and it runs a lot of algorithms and does a lot of research, mainly, not only, but a lot of it is on ecosystems, which are the best cities and countries. And I think one element of a great startup founder is also to be in a great startup ecosystem. Because at the end of the day, the ecosystem that you choose is going to greatly impact your chances of success. If you're in a small village in, I don't know, in Georgia, or if you're in London, there's going to be a massive change in a way. So that's totally the idea here.
So right now, for anyone who is about to start their founder career or maybe to open up another venture, what ecosystems would you say would be right now the hot places to go and open a startup?
Yeah. So the winner ecosystem, without a doubt, is San Francisco. If you want to build something on a global level to be the best in the world and to build the world's next unicorn, San Francisco is 100% your place. So that's the idea. Other than that, New York is also really good. So that's also a great ecosystem. London, Los Angeles, Boston are great as well. And if you're a bootstrapper, Singapore, by the way, is another great. You've been there, we met there. Singapore is absolutely amazing in what they do. It's amazing because they don't necessarily have the best entrepreneurs in the world, but they manage to pull all the best entrepreneurs, especially in the region, to Singapore.
To Singapore, yeah.
Yeah, so
They
they're
have a lot of
extremely smart.
initiatives.
Yeah, because they know that their way of growth is by bringing people from the outside. And yeah, it's pretty fascinating. So for bootstrappers, I think places like even Chiang Mai that have very low cost, but you're very likely to meet a lot of relevant people are also great in a way. Austin in Texas is now growing a lot. It's not as cheap as it used to be. It's now really expensive, but you have some of Salt Lake City in Utah is also pretty interesting. Barcelona is growing really fast. And
They've kind of on a really speed up growth, no, isn't it?
yeah. Barcelona is actually really, really interesting in how business friendly they are and how many companies are moving there. And yeah, so many ecosystems. But the bottom thing is just don't be in a place that is underperforming, because then you're withholding yourself the opportunities of basically enjoying the ecosystem. So the idea is that when I ask people about their most important moments when they have a business, many of those moments are random. They're basically based on a random encounter or something like that, like not something that you can really plan for. And those moments are
Yeah.
happening usually in the best startup ecosystems and not necessarily in ecosystems that are underperforming. So I think that a lot of us are not paying enough attention to where we are.
That's also true. So what's your life philosophy and mantra when you're traveling the world and finding your own inner peace and routines?
Yeah, I think slow travel helps a lot. And the idea is that you try to maybe spend more time and really connect to the place. For me, like feeling like a tourist doesn't work. Like I need to immerse myself and sort of like playing this game of how fast can I feel like I'm a local in the place where I am. So that's one thing. And yeah, and, what you mentioned, before about friends, it makes a lot of sense to make sure that you have an infrastructure of good friends, and that's also really, really important. So that's the idea.
Cool. And I guess we're getting closer to the end right now, and I always have this tradition to leave the listeners with some kind of thought related to entrepreneurship, growth, health. What would be yours, some kind of learning through the years that you would like to share and leave people ponder on?
I think the old saying of know thyself is really, really important. And this is like, especially if you travel and you put yourself out of your comfort zone. So the thing that surprises me the most is how I'm integrating new habits and routines in my life, even after doing this lifestyle for so long. And just like other people are doing it also if they're sedentary. And the idea is to keep on tweaking and optimizing, and sometimes you have a routine that changes your life totally. And this is the thing that I'm always most interested in. How can I identify something that can make a massive impact? And those things keep on happening. And it's really cool to see how when you integrate an habit, it can be something random, like not having screens at home, and lock my screens that I go inside my home, or leave home at 8 o'clock in the morning, a new thing that I'm doing now. how it totally changes your day.
Mhm.
So I just like those games basically, and I hope to keep on playing them in a way. I think it makes a lot of sense. Like never really say this is how my life looks like. Like keep on finding ways to make it better based on who you are. So yeah.
Wonderful. And what's the first thing you do when you come to a new country or you come back to the country you've been before for your part of life?
Yeah, so my goal would be first of all co-working to understand where am I going to co-work because I know I don't want to stay at home.
Okay.
And I also have this routine of trying to do what I call 2 hours of disconnection every day and make sure that I disconnect from work for 2 hours every day and just do something that is totally different in a way. And that also
Nice.
allows me to get to know the country. So those would be my, let's say, my current winners. They keep on changing. But yeah.
Cool. Eli, thank you so much for coming to Perception Paradox and sharing your insights on the nomadic life and the startup scene and what took you where you are right now, actually. I think I would like to dig deeper next time about the challenges building a remote company and also opportunities as well. And for
Yeah.
now, I wish you a great time in Cyprus and great further travels. And yeah, see you somewhere else in the world. So thank you so much for coming.
Thank you for inviting me. Thank you.
And thank you everyone for listening. Have a great day wherever you are. Bye.